What if I told you one of football's biggest superstars didn't come from a European academy, didn't explode overnight, and actually had to fail before becoming a legend? Because Mohamed Salah is not just Liverpool's king. He is the pride of Egypt, one of Africa's greatest ever players, and a football icon whose story is now entering a brand new chapter. So today, we're looking at the full Salah story. His life, his family, the road before Liverpool, the glory at Anfield, his Egypt journey, and the big question now, what comes next after Liverpool for Mohamed Salah?
Thank you, Mia. Hi, everyone. I'm Molly, and welcome to Football Superstar Stories. All right, let's talk about Mohamed Salah. And honestly, when people hear the name Salah, the first thing they think of is probably goals. The left foot, the cut inside, the speed, the beard, the celebration. That feeling when he gets the ball on the right and you already know something dangerous is about to happen. But Salah's story is much bigger than just goals. Because this is not only the story of a great winger. This is the story of a guy who came from a small village in Egypt, fought his way into European football, survived a difficult spell in the Premier League, rebuilt himself in Italy, came back stronger, and then turned himself into one of the greatest players Liverpool Football Club has ever had. And at the same time, he became much more than a footballer for Egypt. He became a symbol, a leader, a national icon, a player carrying the hopes of millions every time he puts that shirt on. So in this video, we're going through 5 parts. First, Salah's background and family life. Second, his football journey before Liverpool. Third, how he became a Liverpool legend. Fourth, his Egypt career. And fifth, where his future might go from here. Let's get into it.
Thanks, Molly. Hi, everyone. I'm Michael, and now let's get into Mohamed Salah's story. Part 1. Who is Mohamed Salah? Early life and family life. Mohamed Salah was born in Egypt in 1992, and his rise to the top really is one of those stories that feels almost unbelievable when you look back at it. Because when you see him now, global superstar, millions of followers, one of the most recognizable footballers on earth, it's easy to forget that this all started from very humble beginnings. He did not come through one of those glamorous football systems that everybody in Europe talks about. He had to work for everything. And that grind, that hunger, that discipline, you can still feel it in the way he carries himself even today. That's one of the reasons why Salah has always felt different from some other superstars. He never really gives off the image of someone obsessed with celebrity. Yes, he is famous. Yes, he is huge. Yes, he is one of the most marketable footballers in the world. But the vibe he gives off is much more quiet, much more controlled, much more grounded. And that carries into his family life as well. Salah is married, and he is also a father. Publicly, he keeps that side of his life quite private compared to many modern football stars. But whenever fans do get a glimpse of it, you can tell family is a big part of who he is. You see those moments on the pitch after big games, especially with his daughters, and it reminds you that behind all the headlines and all the records, there's also a very human side to him. And I think that matters. Because Salah isn't just admired for what he does on the pitch. He is admired for how he handles fame. He feels disciplined. He feels calm. He feels like someone who never forgot where he came from. And for a player with this level of global attention, that is not a small thing. That is part of his brand. That is part of his story. And that is part of why so many people respect him.
Thanks, Michael. Hi, everyone. I'm Martin. Before Mohamed Salah became a Liverpool legend, his journey was anything but straightforward. Part 2, the journey before Liverpool. Now let's talk about the football journey before Liverpool. Because this is the part that makes Salah's story even more powerful. A lot of fans, especially younger fans, mainly know the Liverpool version of Salah. The machine, the record breaker, the guy who scores 20, 25, 30 goals and makes it look normal. But before all of that, his path was not straightforward at all. He started his professional career in Egypt and then made the move to Basel in Switzerland. And that Basel move was massive. Because that was the first real step into European football, and it was also the first time a lot of people started looking at him seriously. At Basel, you could already see the raw ingredients. The speed was there, the direct running was there, the fearless attacking mentality was there. And when he performed well in European matches, suddenly people started paying attention. That eventually led to a move to Chelsea. Now, on paper, that should have been the dream move. Young player, big Premier League club, huge platform. But in reality, it didn't work. And let's be honest, Chelsea was a very important moment in Salah's career, not because it made him a star, but because it could have finished his momentum completely. He didn't really settle. He didn't get consistent trust. He didn't get enough rhythm. And for many players, that kind of experience at a huge club can damage you. Some players never fully recover from that. But Salah did something very important. He didn't let that Chelsea spell define him. Instead, he moved on, kept working, and rebuilt himself. First at Fiorentina, then especially at Roma. And Roma was where you could really see the transformation. This was no longer just a fast winger with exciting moments. This was a player becoming sharper, more efficient, more mature, more complete. His end product improved. His decision-making improved. His confidence improved. At Roma, Salah started looking like a genuinely top-level attacker. And that is why when Liverpool signed him in 2017, some people thought they were getting a very good player. What they didn't realise was this. Liverpool was signing a player who had already been through failure, already been doubted, already been forced to adapt. And sometimes those are the most dangerous players of all. Because by the time Salah arrived at Anfield, he wasn't coming as a wonder kid anymore. He was coming as a man with something to prove.
Welcome to Football Superstar Stories, where we tell the rise, glory, and legacy of football's biggest stars. Our goal is to bring you inspiring football journeys, unforgettable moments, and the stories behind the legends. If you love football, please support us by liking, sharing, and subscribing.
Part 3, Liverpool, from star to legend. And then came Liverpool. This is where good became great. This is where elite became legendary. This is where Mohamed Salah became Mohamed Salah in the eyes of the world. Because from the moment he arrived, the impact was ridiculous. His first season was just insane. Goals everywhere. Records everywhere. Defenders in trouble everywhere. He was electric. And what made it so scary was not just the number of goals, it was the style. Every time he got the ball, there was panic. He could beat you for pace. He could glide past players. He could arrive in the box at the right moment. He could finish calmly. He could score something ugly or something beautiful. And suddenly, Liverpool had this player who wasn't just productive, he was terrifying. That first season turned him into a global superstar. But here is the key thing. Many players can have one unbelievable season. That happens. What makes Salah special is what he did after that. He stayed at that level. Season after season, he kept producing. He didn't disappear. He didn't slow down quickly. He didn't become a flash-in-the-pan player. He stayed ruthless. And over time, his game also evolved. Early Salah at Liverpool felt explosive, almost chaotic in the best possible way. Later, Salah became even more complete, more composed, more intelligent, better at controlling games, better in link-up play, better in leadership. He became one of those players where even if he's not flying around at top speed for 90 minutes, he can still decide the match in one moment. And of course, the trophies followed. Champions League, Premier League, domestic cups, more finals, more records, more history. And this is where the conversation changes. Because once a player starts delivering huge numbers and major trophies for a club like Liverpool, you're no longer asking, is he world class? That question is finished. Now you're asking, where does he rank among Liverpool's all-time greats? Where does he rank in Premier League history? Where does he rank among the greatest African footballers ever? That is the level Salah has reached. And I think one of the most impressive things about him is this. Everybody knows what Salah wants to do. Everybody knows. He wants that ball on the right. He wants to come inside. He wants that left foot involved. He wants to attack the box. And yet, even when defenders know it, he still keeps hurting teams. That's not just talent. That's mastery. And when you stay that deadly for that many seasons at a club with that much pressure, that's when you move from being a star to becoming an era-defining player. For Liverpool fans, Salah is not just part of a successful team. He is one of the faces of an entire era. When people look back at modern Liverpool history, his image will be everywhere. Big European nights, big league goals, big trophies, Big moments. That legacy is already secured. The only question now is, how much bigger can it still become?
Part 4. Egypt. More than football. Now, let's move to Egypt. And this is where Salah's story becomes even heavier. Because at club level, yes, he is a superstar. But with Egypt, he becomes something even bigger than that. He becomes a national symbol. And that is a very different type of pressure. At Liverpool, Salah is surrounded by elite teammates, elite infrastructure, elite systems. With Egypt, so often the emotional weight is completely different. When he plays for the national team, it feels like the whole country is looking at him. Not just as their best player, not just as their captain or talisman, but as the man who can lift the nation. That is a huge burden. And Salah has had to carry that for years. He has delivered goals, big performances, qualification moments, and leadership. He has been the face of Egypt's modern football identity. But at the same time, the Egypt journey has also had pain, heartbreak, near misses, lost finals, huge expectations. The constant feeling that one player has to carry too much. And I think that's why his Egypt story is so emotional, because it has not been a simple fairy tale. It has been a mix of pride and pain, moments of joy, moments of frustration, moments where he looked like a hero, moments where the pressure felt almost unfair. But through all of that, one thing has remained the same. Salah kept showing up, and that matters. Because for many great players, international football is where legacy can become complicated. Not everybody gets the perfect ending. Not everybody gets the trophy moment. But even without that perfect fairy tale finish, Salah's place in Egypt football history is already absolutely massive. He is one of the most important football figures the country has ever produced. And not just because of talent, because of meaning. For millions of people, Salah represents possibility. He represents success without losing humility. He represents world-class excellence coming from Egyptian roots. He represents belief. And that's why the Egypt chapter will always be one of the most powerful parts of his story.
Part 5. So what happens next? Now we come to the part everybody wants to talk about. What next? What is the next chapter for Mohamed Salah? Because when you reach this stage of your career, when you've already won so much, already scored so many goals, already built such a huge legacy, every next move feels important. And now that question feels even bigger. Because Salah has confirmed that he will leave Liverpool at the end of this season. So the conversation is no longer just hypothetical. It is real. The Liverpool chapter is coming to an end. And that means the focus now shifts to what comes next. Will he choose one final challenge in another major league? Will he focus on giving Egypt one more major international moment? Or will he make the move that so many people are now talking about, a big money switch to the Middle East? For now, that part remains speculation, but the rumours are only going to grow louder. These are big questions. And that's why Salah remains such a compelling figure even now. Because usually, when a player has already achieved this much, the story starts to slow down. But with Salah, it still feels alive. There is still something at stake. There are still records to chase. Still moments to create. Still chapters to write. And maybe that is the perfect way to describe Mohamed Salah right now. He's already a legend, but he is also standing at a huge turning point in his career. And that is rare. Very, very rare.
Conclusion. So when we look at Mohamed Salah's full story, what are we really looking at? We are looking at a player who came from humble beginnings. A player who failed, adapted, and came back stronger. A player who conquered the Premier League. A player who became a Liverpool icon. A player who carried the hopes of Egypt. And a player who is now preparing to close one of the greatest Liverpool careers of the modern era. That's what makes Salah so special. He's not just famous. He's not just successful. He feels earned. Everything about his career feels earned. The setbacks, the response, the growth, the consistency, the greatness. And that is why so many people connect with him. Not just Liverpool fans, not just Egypt fans, not just football fans in Africa or the Middle East. People connect with the journey. Because Mohamed Salah's story is not only about winning, it's about proving yourself. It's about coming back stronger. It's about carrying expectation without losing yourself. And honestly, that is why his story still matters so much. Because even after all the goals and all the trophies, the most interesting thing about Salah might still be this. The Liverpool chapter is ending, but the story is not over yet.
Thank you for watching until the very end. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and share football superstar stories with your friends and family. Your support helps us tell more football stories.